DayBreak, Chapter 12, Part 2.
She wouldn't want you to be so hard on yourself, you know.
Blankety cantered to follow her large strides.
Celestia would understand that mistakes happen. How dare you try to speak for her?
Care said, though there was no force behind her voice. There was just a heavy tiredness.
What makes you think that you know her so well? She's the most amazing pony I've ever met.
A small smile touched the corner of his mouth.
The shining beacon of hope and wisdom.
The smile faded.
And she needs us. She needs her knights.
Care's ear twitched. Blank caught the shift, but ignored it.
She saved my life, you know.
Blankety blank watched the crystalline floor.
She's the strongest pony that I know. Strongest pony.
Care said.
The strongest pony in the entire world, but not invincible. No pony is.
Blank muttered. Hurricane hugged the corner of the hallway. The big Pegasus who had carried her from the warehouse was talking with an Earth Pony security guard a few feet away. She waited as their conversation on sports dwindled. When they had exhausted their supply of game scores, the big Pegasus motioned for the door.
Lunch hour for me,
he said.
What'd you bring? The wife packed asparagus. Again.
The Earth Pony stuck his tongue out.
She knows what the stuff does to me. Yeah, and so does every pony else at the Blue Blood estate.
The big Pegasus chucked his shoulder.
Come on, Crabapple, let's get lunch hour over with. I'm telling you, Zephyr,
the Earth Pony said as they trotted away.
It's like she's trying to poison me with these horse apples.
Hurricane squinted as they disappeared down the hall.
That is not no poisonful.
She bent down and crawled towards the doorway. She sneered. Her room had been unguarded. Her weapons had not been returned, but it was no major loss. There was barely anything between her and the outdoors. Perhaps this Dulcimer was not merely playing the fool. She hesitated with her hoof on the handle. Dulcimer could be playing her for the fool, of course, but it was a dire choice either way. She stiffened her back and pulled the handle down. Better to be hunted down by the unicorn than to be under his roof in command. Outside, rose bushes lined the walls of the manor. They grew tall, twice as high as her head. The flowers were dim and brown because of the chill fall air. Hedges were planted around the edge of the property, a wall to keep out intruders. They couldn't keep her in. She grinned and ignored the burning sensation in her cheek. She spread her wings and took off. She jolted to a stop in midair. Sharp pain ran through her rear left leg, and she looked down to see a thorny vine wrapped around her ankle. It dragged her closer to the rose bush, and the bush snarled. She jerked away, snapping the vine. Another lasso struck her front right leg. After that, it was followed by several more clawing at her. Her eyes widened as the rose bushes collapsed and twisted around themselves. Wood snapped and crackled, legs took form, sharp fangs, long ears, blazing eyes. In concert, the rose bushes reconfigured themselves into timberwolves. They leapt and dragged her down to earth. They swarmed, biting, clawing, scraping, and barking. She bucked one to pieces, but it was replaced by two more. They restrained her 6 limbs and went for her throat.
Enough!
The attack ceased. The timberwolves slid away, expanding and falling apart. Within a minute, the wolves were once again unassuming bushes decorating the manor grounds. Hurricane rolled over and examined her body. She hadn't suffered anything more than minor bruises and scrapes, and she looked up at the open doors to see a small thin earth pony with a slack brown mane. She pulled herself upright.
What do I... Oh, the assistants. We haven't been introduced,
the pony said.
I'm Scuttlebutts, personal aide to Viscount Dulcimer.
He gave her a cheese-eating grin.
I suppose that you've realized that escape is very unlikely. Shall be ready for it next time.
Hurricane spat on the ground.
Unexpected though they were, timberwolves are not durable in the slightest. Oh, how adorable. You think that's all you need to fear?
Scuttlebutt gestured to the upper windows of the mansion.
You've been watched since you arrived.
She looked up. In the higher windows, a pony sat with a bow, the notched arrow aimed directly for her heart.
Blue Blood is paranoid,
Scuttlebutt said.
Dulcimer, more so.
Hurricane frowned.
Blue Blood knows I'm here? None the slightest. He's in Candlelight grieving for his nearly departed aunt.
Scuttlebutt all but glided down the steps with smooth serpentine movements.
But his security still has its job to do, protecting his home. And thus Dulcimer benefits.
Hurricane folded her wings across her back.
I'm surprised the dastard has not come to Glow personally. Why did he send me? Oh, he didn't. Frankly, my dear, I'd like to keep this conversation between the two of us.
Scuttlebutt rolled his eyes.
Or 3 of us, I suppose, if you include Fletcher up there.
Hurricane glanced at the bow. The string slacked as Scuttlebutt got closer to her.
The purpose of this conversation is not to force you to stay.
Scuttlebutt's smile evaporated.
It's to make you want to stay. Through threat of force? Through promise of victory.
Scuttlebutt leaned close to her ear, prompting the hair on the back of her neck to stand up straight.
You see, Commander, we serve the same master.
Hurricane leaned back.
I serve not Dulcimer, not Dulcimer.
Scuttlebutt said. His left ear twitched down at an odd angle.
I have made sure that the mirror is secure, far from prying eyes who do not share our sympathies.
He lifted a package from his back and presented it to her.
Here, a token of my loyalty.
She carefully lifted the lid. A set of 50 throwing knives lay inside, created to her exact specifications. Not an ounce out of place, not a symbol distorted. Hurricane kept her mouth in a thin line, while her heart rate increased.
Indeed. Then you understand what I must do. I understand that you have a better chance of success if you stay with Dulcimer for a time.
Scuttlebutt's cheese-eating grin encompassed his entire face.
Does he share our cause? No, I'm afraid not.
Scuttlebutt rolled his eyes.
He has far too much ambition. He would never allow the rightful rulers of the land to take control. He wants the crown.
He shrugged.
Still, he's useful as a pawn.
Hurricane frowned.
It is a dangerous game you play. It's a dangerous game that we all play.
He bobbed his head from side to side.
And like most, it's a game better played with friends.
Hurricane nodded slowly.
You have been in contact with the sisters? I wouldn't be having this conversation with you if I hadn't been given permission.
Scuttlebutt opened his beady eyes wide.
They hope that they have your cooperation.
Hurricane worried her lower lip.
What of Dulcimer's plans for Blue Blood? Shall I slay the prince as he has requested? Blue Blood doesn't factor into our long-term plans. Do what you wish.
Scuttlebutt jerked his head towards the door.
It will probably ease any concerns Dulcimer has about you. We wouldn't want the Viscount to suspect of your true loyalty. I only wanted to do what was necessary, Scuttlebutt.
Hurricane said.
I do not wish to see innocents caught in the crossfire. There will always be innocents in the crossfire, Commander.
Scuttlebutt smiled.
A crying shame, I'm sure.
Hurricane seethed.
Do not be so glib about...
A cloud of smoke flashed through the air, trailing sparks. It swirled before Hurricane's face before flashing and dissipating. A scroll sealed with a simple wax circle fell into her waiting wing. She bit the wax in two and let the paper fall loose.
Our contact in the Royal Guard says that they are moving Princess Celestia and Twilight Sparkle in mere days.
She lowered the scroll and looked off in the middle distance.
And that Blue Blood insists on carrying them in his personal airship. Well, 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 3 birds in 1 stone.
Scuttlebutt chuckled.
Seems some innocents can't help but jump in the crossfire.
Hurricane shut her eyes. Her ears drooped as she hung her head.
Unfortunately, your custom armor won't be done by that time. You'll have to make do with what the security detail can offer you.
Scuttlebutt slithered up the stairs and held the door for her.
Still, I think the world-famous assassin has her next target.
Hurricane stepped inside. She removed the thin light knives from the box and slid them between her feathers. She flexed her wings and watched the wing blades shine in the sunlight.
Dulcimer promised me soldiers. Exactly correct.
Scuttlebutt gave a sharp whistle.
Zephyr! Come here, will you?
The big Pegasus rounded the corner, his large pale yellow forelegs pounding the carpet. He grinned and flicked his light gray tail.
Orders, sir? Hurricane here has a mission for you.
Scuttlebutt turned to her.
Zephyr here is the head of security, and a high-ranking member of our little coup. He'll act as your lieutenant.
Hurricane looked him up and down with a furrowed brow.
Very well. The airship departs in 2 days, and we shall attack in 3. Be ready at that time.
Zephyr gave her a light nod and turned for the hallway.
And Zephyr?
Hurricane said. Zephyr pursed his lips and raised an eyebrow.
Please?
Hurricane whispered.
Leave Blue Blood to me.
Scuttlebutt escorted her to her room. She lay on a soft bed and cranked on her radio. The signal came through much clearer through the high-quality setup than her homemade contraption. She covered her muzzle with a foreleg and allowed the music to wash over her ears.
Platinum, I am so sorry.
Lunch was quiet at Canterlock Castle. Luna spooned potato soup in her mouth as the griffins dug into their servings of fish. She smiled. Even though she had access to silverware, the little Stella was still getting garlic butter all over her feathers. Luna looked at Andean, who was also smiling at his daughter's antics. He caught her eye and dropped a smile. I'm surprised that you decided to dine with us, Princess. He twisted his head to the side to look her in the eye. I'd assume that you had other things to deal with.
I have no excuse for being a neglectful host, King Andean.
Luna bowed her head, mostly to avoid his condor-like stare.
I only wish I could make the stay in Equestria a less somber affair.
Andean brought his giant talons together and hunched over the table. His sheer bulk covered nearly a quarter of it. Well then, shall we at last talk turkey? Stella giggled. Corona shushed her, but also had a smile on her beak.
Talk turkey?
Luna's ears fell back.
I am unfamiliar with the phrase, but I can assume it's a pun.
It just means to talk frankly, without pretenses. Andean clicked his beak. I want ambrosia. I need ambrosia. Damn. I have a feeling that this conversation may not be the most pleasant one. Or maybe they have enough ambrosia to help them out. Who knows? Anywho, let's get on to our Grants donators. Top donators: Peter Coulthard, J10 Man, Darkside, Gauntlet, and Only One Thing. TacoCat598, Zar630, Strix, Raiden, Narwhals, Black Moonheart, Drake Lovedragon, Pastel Skies, Austin Roland, CrazyClaire557, Stu Hex, Will, Omicron Lyrae, Dospo, Delta Omega, Jack Hedge, RuneScythe9852, Madman Stan, Leslie Prickett, Hunter Norman, Stephen Bingham, LineGod12, Sorcerer Constantine, Hut Zaza, and many more awesome people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.